death. I mean, I'm sure all these death certificates are there. I want to believe also that the widows have post-mortem reports. But for us, because we will not pretend to be, legal representatives or counsels that will go to the American courts, we will want to address the spirit of the law in America. I think that is what we need. That is what should be cured so that Kenyans then can access the available fund. I think basically that's the direction we would want to take as the Senate.
Thank you, Senator Tobiko. You can move on.
Thank you so much, and I'll call upon a widow that has a death certificate of her husband here with her, and all of them, they have their death certificates. Anissa Mwilu, please go ahead.
Thank you, Caro. All protocol observed. My name's Safula Abdi Mwilu. My husband was working in Cooperative Bank as a manager of Coop Merchant, the bank which was adjacent the embassy. In fact, when he was in the office, he could see the askaris who were manning the gate where the bomb entered. So that fateful day, we drove in the office, and he was back in office after suffering a stroke, but with God's grace, he recovered. So I took him to the office that Friday, and then it was just like luck. He told me, Mama Vonza, you have to go to Aga Khan Hospital to Dr. Musao so that you get a report so that I show my bosses that I'm recovered fully. So I just went outside with the driver. We went to Aga Khan Hospital. After reaching Aga Khan Hospital, the secretary there told me that Dr. Musao, at that time he was in the theater. Maybe if we can come in the afternoon. So I decided to take the phone and call my husband, informing him that we have to come in the afternoon to take the report. As I was talking to Mwilu, I told him that now we have to come in the afternoon to take the report because Dr. Musao apparently is in the theater. Without hesitating, he told me, Ebu Ngoja, Mama Vonza, there's a commotion outside. And then the phone went out. I told the driver, let's go back to town. Mwilu has said there's a commotion. I don't know what is happening there. So the phone didn't work. From that time, we went back to town. We had to pass so many, because you couldn't enter town at that time. The ambulance were coming to Aga Khan Hospital. Everything was chaotic. So after reaching the Cooperative Bank, I saw many policemen with horses. I couldn't go inside so that I take Mwilu. He couldn't walk. He was using a walking stick. So I was crying. My husband is inside there. But apparently the building was all crumbled down. Everything was chaotic. People were crying. People were just jumping from the windows, the window panes. It was very scary. So after 5 days, I managed to get Mwilu in the city mortuary. After all people were taken out, I managed to get my husband dead in the city mortuary. So we started the process of burying and everything. Coming back, I realized the widows who were left, most of us were young women. We didn't know what to do after that. Most of us were not working. The breadwinners have gone. So I decided to start a group of Wajane Sabanane. We call the group Wajane Sabanane. After that, that group was about to help each other, do counseling, and we didn't know what to do. The kids were not going to school. We didn't have any assistant. We got food from, as Caro said, from Red Cross the food was coming for donation, so we were called, hey, Mama Vonza, come, there's some food. We are given some rice, some oil. We became beggars in our own country. It was so traumatizing. I don't like to remember that day. The widows had to come together. We had so many problems, even with our relatives, the people from our husband's side. People were frustrated. They were frustrated. The kids didn't go to school. So what we want is compensation. If we get the compensation, these kids who didn't go past Form 4, they can go to school and have their university level education. I think this is the right time. We are very thankful for our Senate, Madam Agnes Kavindu. She came at the right time. We have been suffering for 25 years. So now we can see a light at the end of the tunnel. What we are saying, we are praying for all the senators in the ad hoc who are going to represent us, with the widows, orphans, the widowers, and the victims. We are so grateful for the job you are doing. And we are still praying for you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, Chair, I have been keeping time, and I think we have done 1 hour, 5 minutes, which is very good. I would like to say, Chair, that first to thank you and Caroline for coming up with this very great idea of bringing a motion to the Senate and having this committee put in place. We have had harrowing experiences from this session, and I would like to say poleni sana. We really felt it, and most of us were moved to tears. Na poleni. The truth of the matter is that I will not really follow the path of looking at the legalese around what happened so much, but on humanitarian grounds, everybody knows that there was a bomb blast, and people lost their lives. People lost their livelihoods. People lost the people they depended on to bring food on the table. So what the Council for Judiciary is saying is very true, that we must have some form of reparations. Hata kuambiwa poleni sana. That must be there. That the American government must recognize that something wrong happened in Kenya. Now you are saying nini? Pole. But most importantly, we cannot gain livelihood from that pole. That's why we have to pursue also some form of compensation. So I think we will work very hard day and night to synthesize the information we've put in place and see the best way of approaching the Americans, diplomatically, of course, and with the evidence that would have to see that you get justice. Even if it is justice delayed, but now there's nothing else you can do. Ngigi has given a very story that is very sad and disheartening, that you go to even government offices, but you're not able to get justice. People just turn you away. But this House of Parliament is there because of you. It's your right to be served by Parliament. We are an oversight arm. We represent you, and so I think we'll get the best. Poleni sana, and young man, we are very happy to see you. That is Baraka. Yeah, well done, and you're a great man. And I know there are many others, maybe who have not come here, but as we move, we interact more and more with you. For now, asante sana. I send it back to the chair.
Chair. Chair,
Yes, Senator
because
Tabiko.
Senator Mwaruma almost sounded like he was doing some conclusive remarks. Maybe it will be good, because we are interacting with these people for the first time, just for us to allow them time in case there are those who really had to speak today. We may not have the whole day, but just give them a little more time in case. We don't want to lock out anybody, just in case they had other people who needed to speak. even if it is in summary form.
Thank you, Senator Tobiko. Senator Manzo?
Yes, first I want to indicate that it is true a lot of work has been done and there have been no bottlenecks. The American government has found a need to set up a fund which now exists, not only for Kenyans, but all people in the world, where an act of war has been committed against the Americans and other people have suffered. With 5,000 cases plus, first and foremost, anyone would have been there, would have been a victim. I was in the University of Nairobi, that was my route home, and I was not far from that incident. So it would have happened to anybody. Death has happened, injuries have happened, livelihoods have been lost. In ordinary circumstances, where an act causes death or injury to another person, there is compensation. That's a general principle of all practice of law all over the world. So we cannot process every single story for 5,000 people. It is important that it is documented, and also it is important that each, if you see the documents and the law which has been passed in the US for you to qualify for these funds, it seems the threshold probably may have to be changed by the US Senate and Congress to accommodate any credible story, because also con people will come up with all manner of documents. But a document as good as a death certificate and or medical treatment for the survivors is clear. I mean, to what happened to some of these people, and I believe also the compensation should follow closely to what we award in Kenya in terms of quantum, and also what is awarded in America in terms of injuries of that nature or loss of life. So I believe we would really honestly not to hear every very single story, but for every case there must be documentation, and then we can flash out key ones. We have to condense and summarize all this, because by the time we face the American Senate and the Congress, we must also have a concrete story for documentation of every single one. I believe the government of Kenya can also verify this through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So like a note of a bar of some sort, say, as the government of Kenya, we own this and we recommend. So the government of Kenya and Ministry of Foreign Affairs has a very big role in this. The moment they do that, then government to government, I believe, will get somewhere. I'm saying this in having appreciated what has happened, and knowing that this is coming from every county, every part of Kenya. The victims are real, they are there. And all we need now is that final journey, so that every documented story is recommended by government of Kenya to government of America, and following that trust of the request of government of Kenya, then now they go on to award. And that's all I wish to say, Chair, and my apologies to the victims, and we'll do our level best to help them.
Thank you. Well said. I know they brought their documents actually yesterday, and those who did not bring them yesterday, today they brought. But we should give chance to few of them and just say the most important thing that they have to say. We don't want to lock anyone out, but I know we have all your documents. We are going to work, and I'm sure we'll also have town hall meetings, 2 or 3 town hall meetings, so that you can bring in as many as possible. They come and speak their grievances, and we hear before we move to America. Thank you.
Yeah, in fact, Chair, I commented the way I commented because I took cognizance of the fact that we'll have another session with a bigger crowd, so we can get maybe more time to have those other experiences. But for now, because we have some few leaders, as Caroline is indicating, then we can give some little more time to the ones that you feel have critical information for us.
Thank you, Senator. And I'll call one of the orphans that lost their father so we can hear their experience. And I'll call Grace Njoroge. And after her, we have Diaspora that is represented by one of the ladies that lost her husband. She came all the way for this. So I beg for those to start speaking. And please summarize and go straight to the point because of time. Grace Njoroge, thank you.
Honorable Senators, good morning again, and all protocols observed. My name is Grace Njoroge. My father, who was working at the Ministry of Trade, formerly at Cooperative Bank House, he was the driver to the late Honorable Minister Kamodo, J.J. Kamodo, and on this day, he lost his life. It is quite a disturbing tragedy to remember the loss of my father. I was very young. I was still in school with my siblings. We are 6 of us, and we were still at our young age.
How old were you then?
I was 17 years. I was in Form 3. Yeah, I was 17 years old, and I was just doing my examination. Now, the day he woke up, and fortunately, I'm the one who had opened the door for him to go to work. I remember I polished his shoes, and he left to go to work. He seemed to have been having a busy meeting, because on that day the minister was having the U.S. ambassador, Prudence Bushnell, at their office. And my dad was looking very, very busy, even the previous night. I had come back from school the previous night, because I think it was the end term, and we had closed school. So I spent a few minutes with him, and we discussed about education and the plans for after Form 4, what I would do and all that. But he didn't have much time because he looked very busy and had to take an early rest. The morning he left, I didn't know that was the last time I would see my father. I didn't know that is even the fact that I'm the one who, among us, the other siblings, I'm the one who woke up to see him off. I didn't know that would be the last day. But apparently at around 10 o'clock when the blast happened, I know we had the rubble all the way in our home. We thought the ground had shook and something big had happened, and we came to learn later on of the blast. And this time it is where my dad was working, that area. My dad was in a meeting with my aunt at around Haile Selassie Avenue. They had gone to the embassy to seek a visa for my cousin. And a few minutes when they had parted ways with the sister, he went back to the office. The vehicle was at the basement. He was going back to the basement. What is the story that we get from my aunt? And he must have encountered the blast, given the explanation and given the condition that he was found in, because they tried to search for him that same day. They searched for him the following morning and ended up finding him at the city mortuary. He was not even identifiable. Now, it was very, very tough. Very, very tough to having lost your father, the person who has been your breadwinner, the person who has been paying your school fees, the person who has been making sure that you have everything that you need to survive as a family. It was very, very tough. We had to live with the fact that we could not even see his face because of how badly he was mutilated by the blast. And it is just a story. Sometimes you imagine that this man will come back again, because the many years that we kept living and living, we thought this man went and he's coming back. There are so many trips he would take to work, and we thought he would go and come back. And unfortunately, this did not happen. We lived a hard life, a difficult life. Most of my siblings, every time would be sent away because of school fees. Fortunately, we managed to clear school, but after finishing the education, we could not go further. I had promised my dad I would be a journalist, and you'll be seeing me on the TV there. But that never happened. He was willing to do everything for me to happen, but he had left, and nobody was going to take that up. Then by the grace of God, we finished our schools and our education, but we could not go further. When we started the consortium and we started the Thanksgiving prayers early this year, I remember I've met very many orphans, and their story is no different from mine. Some have very harrowing stories. If they came here and you would not imagine that they went through this in front of their relatives, the people who they were left to take care of them because their parents had died. And some of them lost both parents, others lost one parent. For me, I lost my dad. But later in 2022, my mother also died. She succumbed to COVID. For now, these orphans are crying. I represent all the orphans. We have a group of 100 and above orphans. And we are all crying that it is time. 25 years has taken too long. You cannot be saying 25 years, staying 25 years and you've not compensated somebody who has, even if it is an accident outside here, you go through the insurance process and you're compensated. 25 years is too long a time. And we are still seeking for justice, seeking for compensation. How are we going to help our younger ones, the ones that we have below us, and they are still at home without jobs? How are we going to maneuver through life? It's becoming even harder, and especially with the hard times that we have currently in Kenya. So I'm representing all the orphans in the 47 counties who have no voices here to plead with the Senate, and we appreciate the work that you are doing. This came in at a good time, and I think this is the most appointed time that it came in. And we appreciate the work that you are doing. We are praying that you're going to do this, and the justice will be achieved for everyone, and even for the widows, our mothers, the ones that were left. They have suffered with us. They have suffered sincerely. And you can only say that even the ones who are injured, they can have medical care. They can be given an opportunity to go and have good medical care in hospitals that can be able to treat them. There are people who are talking about having glasses in their bodies, surely. 25 years on, can you imagine? There are people who still have glasses in their bodies, particles of glasses. So we plead with the committee, and we appreciate the work that you are doing, that you can support us on all the orphans are behind you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Grace. I'll call upon Jane Kivathi from Diaspora. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Jane Kivathi. My husband who worked at Ufodi Sacco died that time. I remember very well that Friday. He had off days the whole of that week. But that Friday, he told me he had to go to work because he had some works to finish. So he went to work. We used to have a shop at Isley, and I used to run that shop. So that morning, we had some issues with the city council. So I saw the city council people coming towards our shop, and I had to call him. I picked up the phone. It was around 10. I called him. He told me, oh, you just talk with them. I have a lot to do in the office. So I waited for the guys to come in. When they came in, as soon as they said, habari mama, uliongea na mzee, we had the big bang in town. The guys went outside to check what was going on. That's when we started seeing people coming from all over running. Wengine wanasema Nairobi imechomeka, Nairobi imechomeka. We didn't know what was happening. Because we had a small bureau, telephone bureau at the shop, people started coming to my shop to make phone calls, to call their relatives to know what was going on at the city. That's when one of the guys came and was like, oh, you remember that building between the American Embassy and the cooperative building? It has been bombed. And they said it is even showing on the TV. So I had a small TV in my shop. So we turned around, we turned the TV on. That's when I saw the food building in Shabos, and everything went dark for me. I started telling them, you know what, my husband works there. So I wasn't able to do anything else. I called my relatives, and we started planning what to do. We decided to come to the site. That's when we saw the whole area was enclosed. We couldn't get in, so we decided to go to all the hospitals. We checked everywhere. We couldn't find him. The following day, we went there. We went to Kenyatta Hospital. That's when one of the doctors was like, "Where did your relative work?" they told him he worked at Ufudi. The doctor said, if it's Ufudi, you guys just go to the mortuary. We went there. That's where we found him. And after the funeral, I went through a lot because of the judge of Fad, because you know about money in Kenya. One of the family members was turning against me, one of the, Kibadi's family members. So he even took me to court. So instead of mourning, I was going to court because of whatever I went through. So I didn't even have time to mourn. After 1, 2, 3 years, I struggled. I had to sell my shop. I had to close my shop because when the case was thrown out, I felt threatened. So I had to close my shop. And I decided to start living with my family members. After 3 years, I moved to America. I lived there. I struggled. In America, it's not easy as people think. We struggle a lot. And that's when, later on, I connected with Carol, and we worked together, and I'm representing the Diaspora group. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jane. I want to tell everybody that my heart has been crying since we survived, and I've tried to connect and talk to victims, and I took the challenge of talking to so many. Even being in America, having a lot of work, I take a lot of time to talk to them because they didn't get any counseling, they're still suffering. So this is a good time that we are all connecting. And I'll call upon Lillian Mulo, who was pregnant the 3rd time, so she can tell us what she went through. Thank you, Lillian.
Good afternoon. Once again, my name is Lillian Mulo from Makueni County, though I reside in Kajiado County currently. And I remember that time, I will not talk much about myself because I was interviewed by Ketin, and I know you'll get the story. But that time I was on the cooperative house, 12th floor, and I was due with I was actually 3 weeks due to my due date, actually, 3 weeks to my due date. And I remember what happened was that day we woke as a very normal day. We were just, okay, the normal, how we wake up in the morning, go to the office, go back to the office, back home. And to me, I didn't expect anything tragic before me. I didn't see anything bad before me happening. So when I go to the office, the first blast is what I heard. The second blast I did not hear, because we were all pushed one side with my big tummy, and one side of the right side was badly hit. And I remember my colleague telling me that, Lillian, don't wake up, we are dead, in Kikamba. Don't wake up, we are dead. And I wondered, is this how people die? As in 1 minute we are talking, the next minute, one step, and death is just a step ahead of us. And I really wanted to confirm that I was dead. I asked him, are you sure, Ndamuki, that we are dead? And he told me, yes, we are dead. We are now in heaven. And what happened, just to cut the story short, is that after 2 weeks, I remember that would have been my burial day. And I locked myself in my bedroom and cried. And I said, I will never cry about the bomb blast again. The Lord healed me, because it is amazing that most of the women who are expectant didn't get any time for counseling, because we were heavy. We were very heavy, and with the injuries and all that, we didn't get time to go for counseling, and also the trauma. And we have a small group. We are around 30 of us. We have a group that we call ourselves Silent Mothers. Right now, my son is 25 years. He was born 3 weeks after the blast with a lot of bruises all over. He looked very weird to me because I wondered, why is he not like any other children? So I had to massage him for almost a week for him to get back to the normal, shape of a baby. But that time, the Teacher Service Commission didn't have any medical cover, so we actually depended on God that we survive and, take care of ourselves. I remember when I talked to most of the women, like now I was trying to get a few to get interviewed, they were all suffering. They were all at home, and they told me, Lillian, I cannot get out of where I am, not unless they come to my house, or I get somebody to carry me from where I am to here. Because one of the sufferings that we endured were very diverse, gynecological problems, whereby we lost, some of us lost our wombs, some of us, they got torn, they were actually torn. I remember after 8 years, after 12 years, the Lord blessed me with a baby again, but the baby couldn't survive not survive, sorry for that term that I've used. The baby couldn't be taken for long in the womb because the womb was kind of shattered, and I was told that this baby cannot actually continue in this womb. And one night I just woke up and the amniotic fluid was ruptured. When I went to the hospital, I was told that this baby has to be born. I did not have any pain for the baby to be born. So the baby was not mature to be born. The lungs were not formed, the liver was not formed. So what happened is that they had to give me some drugs for the baby to be formed, for him to be operated out of the womb. That was at 6 months. And when the baby was born, he developed a condition that is kind of absent seizure. We call it as in a better term to use. Is kind of autistic, though he says that he doesn't want to look autistic. He wants to be a normal child because he wants to live as a normal life. He's autistic in Form 1, and it has not been easy for me to bring him up because at some point I had to leave my place of work and just concentrate on him and also do other things, because one of the things that also made me come out of the office was the fear that this might also happen again to me. The trauma was so sensitive, and that is one of the things that most of the women went through, and not only the women, all the survivors. Things have changed from how we used to live to a different kind of life, because you realize that if there was something small that was developing in you, it now, advanced to something even more advanced, and you do not have a medical cover to take care of yourself. And we have to live with this. But my prayer is that since the committee ahead of us has been mandated to take care of this issue, I am 100% sure that by the grace of God, you will be able to take us through this, and God will see us through, not because of us, but because of the many victims. The many victims. Why you are not able to get the 5,000 people is because most people went behind the scene and just, enclosed themselves. And I got to that point, and that is when I realized, since I never died on that day, let me come out and look for Caroline and see whether we can help those who are behind the scene and see how we can come out. And even after this, even after the 25 years, we want to come up with a way of trying to look for where they are, because most of them are traumatized, so most of them are depressed at home, most of them are even schizophrenic, at home. So we need to come up and get to know where they are and help them in whichever way we can. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you so much, Lillian. I'll call Rintempta, who has gone through a lot, struggling with health issues. And Rintempta.
Thank you, Madam Senate Kavindu, and all protocols observed. I was working with the Teacher Service Commission. We were in a meeting on the 4th floor, and the meeting had, thank you. The meeting had just started, and the late Mr. Mwani, who was seated next to me, had just cracked a joke about women leaders, and we all laughed. Before we finished laughing, the first blast went. And somebody in front of the late Mr. Nswili also was right in front of me on the other side. And somebody, I don't know who it was, said, a big tire burst. And another one said, a bomb. At that time, I can't tell exactly where I was, but it seemed that I fell down and I stood up because I was next to Mwani here, Mr. Nswili, and this Diana's husband, who also died, was right in front there. These three men died in their chairs. And me, where I believe I must have fallen down, is because I think I looked the side of the windows, and when I fell down, that's why the glass missed me, hit Zwili and the other guy, and killed Mr. Mwani, who was next to me. But anyway, I stood up, I walked out, without knowing that the whole of, because I was wearing a crimpling dress, which is very susceptible to fire, the whole of my back was empty. The clothes had burned. I only had something at the front. And as I walked, somebody told me, here's the door. I went out, and people were running. I was getting tired. And somebody said, can I carry you? I said, no, I'm too big. You go down yourself. But I found there used to be a place on the cooperative building with a flat one with many boxes on. I had never known it. But because doors had flung open where I went and sat on one of them because I couldn't walk anymore. As I sat down, two young men came in, and they said, Mama, stand up. This is power. This is electricity. So they pulled me up, and I said, let me sit down. He said, no. And people were now running. Some were a rope had been fixed. They were holding on and going down. They said, hold on. The man said, she has no hands and strength to hold on to that rope. So I said, just leave me. But these boys were determined. They pulled, I think, flags or whatever it was. They tied me up, put me on that rope now, and they lowered me down to the ground. Luckily, I found an ambulance just about to leave, and they carried me and put me down on the floor. Then the boy got in and said, Aga Khan. I said, no. If I go to Aga Khan, I'll be dead before I reach there. But the driver turned around and said, Mama, unataka wapi? I said, Nairobi Hospital. And that is where I was taken. The doctors there did not, when they saw me, they said this one is dead. But somebody said no, came with something sharp, pricked me, and they said no, she's alive. So they prepared two labels, one with my details because I was shouting them, and they put on the leg, and the other one they put on the arm. They said wherever she will go, whether to the mortuary or among the sick in the hospital. As this went on, they tried stitching me. They removed a lot of glasses. If you look at me at the back, especially my back, it is all but wounds. There were cuts, there was glass inside me. In fact, they stitched my right leg, finished stitching, and when the late Mrs. Kiambi's, Dr. Kiambi's wife, who was also a doctor, came in, and she touched some there. She said, told Professor Kiambi, he said that, darling, there is something here foreign in the body. So they had to cut again, and we were being stitched without anesthesia because they didn't have it. They had gotten finished. So they pulled it out and restitched. By then I had had one cardiac arrest, and they were able to revive me. Then they continued, and I think for whatever hours they were tired, the doctors left and took me. They wanted to take me to ICU. They said the ICU is full. So they took me to the ward. one doctor passed and told them this patient is for ICU, not a ward. But they said it is full. So the three doctors who were attending me, Professor Kiambi, Dr. Silverstein, and Professor Guthua, left. Before they went very far, I had another cardiac arrest. And an Asian patient, a doctor who was passing with an injection to revive somebody, is the one who came and saved me. He gave me that injection to jerk back my heart into action. And these doctors were called. Then they took me to ICU. ICU was full, yes, but they just went and pushed an American. I was between two Americans. One was this way and another one this way, and they left me there. They told an ICU nurse to take care of me. That lady really, that's when I believed that in the ICU, people work. You don't go there to sleep or to get medicine, but you are there for your life to be saved. And this lady, because she was told there is just one drop in my pressure, if it drops, I'll be gone. While I was in there, I had another cardiac arrest, and they worked hard and revived me. Now, those were 3 cardiac arrests. The rest are many stories I can't tell you. From there, I was going to retire at the end of August. And when now I left the hospital, it was end of August. I went home and I could not walk because I was now in crutches. I could not help myself. I could not turn at night without assistance. But I thank God, my husband and the children, grandchildren of my brothers and sisters who are living with me. I have one here, my brother's daughter, the one who is helping me even up to today. I just sat home. I went back to the hospital for checkups. The time when they were giving the Njoroge money, which the president had ordered, my number was passed. When my husband took me there, I was told this money has already been given out. And he said, no, she has not. She has been from the hospital. She didn't get any. They checked, and then they brought him the paper, showed him, and even showed him the person who had taken money. It was somebody who had not been admitted at all, but had been paid that money. So because that was the last day, I think they put down something and they paid me 60,000 shillings. And that is all I have gotten from the bomb blast business. I went home. I stayed home. My husband had already retired. His mother was very old and could not move around, and he was the only son. My husband was the only son. So he had relocated home. I was going to go after retiring. So he went home to go and look after her, because even if I went, I would not help her. So I continued to stay in Nairobi. Then one day when I went for a checkup in September of that same year, I was given a letter to say, take it to your employer and tell your employer that they can't retire you now. They have to keep you for 1 more year so that you can benefit from the insurances and the medical cover in the office. When I took it there, the person who was in power at that time refused. In fact, he didn't see me. The letter was taken to him. He read it and he said, no. Later on, they sent me a letter to say they had extended my retirement up to December. So by December 1998, I retired, and it took for some time for me to get my benefits. And my daughter, who was in Russia, who had just come home on Tuesday, and the bomb blast happened on Friday. She was expecting me to get money and give her to go back to complete the final year. She didn't go back. She stayed, and in fact, she's the one who traced me. He went to Kenyatta Hospital, nothing, then to the mortuary in the Kenyatta Hospital, and a guard had to come and pull her out because she was fainting, because she said she saw dead bodies without heads, others without arms, others the eyes are popping out, and she almost fainted. And then they pulled her out and asked her which was the other hospital. She said, just Nairobi Hospital here. She came there, and for sure she traced me and started calling the others. But one thing I thank God, though I was feeling really tired and gone, my tongue and my mind was afresh. I kept on telling them my names, my employer, TSC, and my husband's name, and I told them I'm a Catholic, call for me a priest. I said I live in Bomas of Kenya. You have to pass Bomas of Kenya and go down the river and what, and then they would, or I would hear them laughing. And they say that, yeah, you know very well. And I gave them the telephone number for TSC and the telephone number for my house. And through all those things, they wrote them all down. And that is how, even when a sister-in-law of mine came in, he just saw the legs because the face was all covered with blood. And she said from the legs that I know this because I had no shoes. I don't know where they remained. I don't know where my handbag went. I just went. The car, I had left it in the car park. They must have found a duplicate key later on, and they took it. My son, who was running from Upper Hill to come to TSC on Haile Selassie, he got knocked down, and the people were trying to catch, the driver is trying to catch him to tell him, stop, we see. But he went and got into a bus, alighted in Bomas, and went home running. Now he's the one who was able, when the others were calling, he was in the house to say, I did not reach town, but I know Mommy's office was bombed, and she must be dead. So they traced me and found me. I thank God because from that time, when I retired, I knew nothing of what was going on. For until 2022, when my daughter, this one who traced me, she lives in England. She came home and she looked at the correspondence we were getting from Mussolini, letters. But when the mobiles came, people stopped having post office boxes. So I gave up mine, and so I don't know if they sent. The letters must have gone back to America. And she found the name and the firm of the lawyers who had taken up the case, and told me, you know these people, have you ever talked to them, have you ever written? I said, no. Me, I just read and I keep them here. She made a desperate effort and looked at the things, I don't know whom she was calling, but she was using a sister to my daughter-in-law. Her mother used to work with the American embassy. Now, this girl is the one who gave me a breakthrough. She said, get somebody called Mr. Sidialo. If you talk to him, he will tell you. Then she also went online, traced, and she traced Caroline Muthoka in the States. She said, I have called him, I have talked to her, I've given her number. And remember, 1998, and now I'm beginning to get into the group in 1922. It was 2022. But I thank God when I eventually got to talk to Caroline, she was very positive and very encouraging. I also got to talk to Mr. Sidialo, who gave me a lot of insight. Then encouraged me to go to TSC because I was so scared of going anywhere. A TSC building, it will collapse again when I'm in there. But I managed to go there and found Leonora, who I found to be very, very useful. So I thank God for Leonora, Mr. Sidialo and Caroline for having brought me in. I have been 19. My husband died in 2017. I went with him to India 2016 when we were told that it was too late for him. But because I was with my son, we called for the records from where I had been attending Nairobi Hospital. Now I had switched to Karen Hospital. They gave a report, and I was examined, tested, and so on, and they found I had 3 slip discs on the back because I was finding walking very hard, even sitting up very hard. So I was operated on, but I would now nearly have gone through that because I tried to tell them, don't put me under sleep, complete sleep. But they said they know. And I was operated on. The operation was over. And 9 hours down the line, I was still not waking up. When my son was just about to call home and say, Daddy, I'll come with him, but Mommy is gone, then they managed to revive me. Because the doctor had told me because of the so many lacerations on the body and because of the blood all pouring out, my heart had been badly affected. So I'm on medication all the time, 7 days of the week, morning and evening. I take a tablet, it's equivalent to warfarin, but in India they said warfarin is too strong. So when I went to India, they gave me something lighter to stop my body forming blood clots, because they said if I get any clot, which I had at one time gotten, and I went to Karen, they just saved me in the nick of time, because I had a clot traveling to the heart, and this is because of the so many broken bits of the veins. I had this point here, I lost 3 teeth, and they said if I talked, you could see through. Here, the eyes were affected, the eardrum burst, and all these things I didn't discover until about 5 years later. This point was operated on, and the doctor showed me on a small spoon. They scooped out dust with the pieces of wood and glasses. And now I have to see a doctor all the time because of my eyes. The eardrum, I was told my age, I cannot have that long operation to build another ear. So when I went to South Africa, where my daughter lives, they were able to design for me a hearing aid, which I normally wear for to assist me with the hearing. I cannot wake up in the night. I cannot turn. When I'm in my bed at night, I turn. I have to sit up, set myself to be able to turn to the other side, because the muscles, even now, this one may be not the bomb with age, and because I move very little, I do very little in the house, because I can't stand up straight. I'm wearing a girdle for the back. I have to sit up in order to turn on one side. So most of the time I get cramps because I have been lying on one side for too long, and they are very painful. Then I have something in the muscles which pains, and they said it came up because of blood, a lot of blood pouring out. Now with that, it can be so painful that I started sweating. I had one this morning just before we came, because I was trying to hurry up, trying to do this, and it triggered the pain. I had to go and lie down again and tell her if it doesn't go down, I will. But luckily I had some medicine I took for pain. And that's why I got so late. I've been keeping them waiting when I'm saying, I'm here, I'm coming. But this was because I was not able to move around. So I thank you very much, and I thank Caroline and Mr. Sidialo, because my daughter, the one in London, is the one who now organized to talk to Mr. Sidialo, and Mr. Sidialo now encouraged me, because I had said, just leave me. I can go live like this, and when God wills, I will go. But I'm glad I'm here. Even that 1 year, even if they had given me in the office to stay, I'm sure it would have been very strenuous for me to wake up every morning and go to the office. So I thank you all, and I thank God particularly for making it possible.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rendemta. As you can all hear, we have similar stories, and we have suffered. And in TSC, led by Leonora, they have about 300 people, victims. And one of them passed away last week. They'll be burying that lady next week because of all what we are going through, without medical, without support. Right now, I'll call the last person to speak due to time, and that will be Mr. Ali Mwandame. He has been standing with the victims for all these years. They've been meeting at the Bomb Blast Park, and he can tell us just a little bit of what they've been doing. And please be kind of the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Honorable Senator Agnes, also Caroline Mudoka. My name is Ali Mwadama. On the 30th day of the 7th August 1998 bomb blast, I was just making some financial transaction at the banking hall at the National Bank of Kenya, Developing House branch, which is opposite the area of a tourist target of the U.S. Embassy. Due to the massive extent of the effect of the bomb, the building was sharply shattered by the shrapnel, causing a deep cut on my neck, an injury that caused permanent effect in my life, life to date. It is Luke 20. Through the chair, Honorable Senator Agnes Kavindu, on the day of the 7th August 1998 bomb blast, I was just making some financial transaction at the banking hall of the National Bank of Kenya Developing House, which was opposite the area of the tourist target in the U.S. Embassy. Due to the massive extent of the effect of the bomb blast, the building was heavily shattered by the shrapnel, causing a deep cut on my neck, an injury that has caused me permanent effect in my life, lasting death. I took 26 stitches in joint back my neck to the head. I wore by several to Dr. A.K. Montage, physician who is terminal, sees me at 50% disability. Dr. Mondete was assisted by 5 doctors and their supporting medical personnel. Personally, the after effect of the bomb blast have led me to have my very painful experience in my life for the prolonged period of time. I have bouts of digness which keep on and with the difficulty turning my neck. I also conscious of the frequent headache and suffered from the deafness of my ears. The whole evidence has made me life up down, and which is serious affected my normal life, including feeding my family. This was all a great effect of extending family, having been the sole breadwinner who has been a provider. The formal brief of the experience after the bomb blast. 25 years is a long time wait, considering that what we, the survivors and victims, went through. The majority had lost hope and felt brittled by these whom they felt could provide support for them in terms of compensation. It is this end we wish to record our sincerely appreciate to the U.S. government for footing the medical costs and paying school fees for the children, although these facilities were only short duration. The determination displayed by our lawyers giving us solution and hope. We wish also to register our gratitude to Senator Agnes Kavindu for taking up this issue for our Lord Ghost, Madam or Dr. Ramona Tasco, and tireless pursuing justice for us, Caroline Mudoka, for champion and cause the international platform seeking for our compensation. We also to register our greatest gratitude to the senators for slotting us in their just agenda. We hope this is articulated our case with a lot of empathy. We wish you a success and also ensuring that we are finally served in justice. And also for that, I think I can say for a bit of Kiswahili kwamba we thank all the senators, and I think one day I wrote letters to you people to appreciate what you are doing for us, because we could not come here everybody to say to talk with our senators and whatever. But as far as we're concerned, I think I met with Agnes Kavindu at Mwanzoni there with some other senators. We discuss about this, but we appreciate. And if you look at me here, I think we have to produce everything we have here, because even my neck, I can't turn always, but this is my picture, which even if I saw it, madam, I can cry because of this kind of the thing, which happened in 1998. So for that, Madam Kavindu and all the senators of this Republic of Kenya, please, we thank you very much, and we hope that you can do a lot to assist us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ali. And at this point, I will say that we appreciate Honorable Kavindu. We appreciate all the other senators, the ad hoc committee, and we are sure we will venture into compensation. At this point, we have hope. People had lost hope, but with this starting, it has given us a lot of hope. I'm seeing a lot of victims now having a face that they can say, at least our government has come to our rescue. And without much ado, I will say that we have a Thanksgiving Day on August 5th, and we are inviting all the ad hoc committee. We will have all the victims there, whoever will manage. We will be praying, and we will have music from our music industry that will be praying with us. So kindly join us, and we appreciate everybody that has turned out today. It's not been an easy thing, and I know with God everything is possible. I will invite our national convener, Mr. Stanley, and he will say a word of remark, and we will close with that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Senator Kavindu and Honorable Senators from the ad hoc committee. Thank you, members who have come. Senators and the committee, as you have heard, these are very deeply touching testimonies, and they are only but representative of what people have gone through, and some due to the extraneous circumstances, they have been forced to go back home or they are in very dire conditions. So I would like to acknowledge what even Honorable Senator Manzo said, that we are not in any kind of a fight with the American government, but what we are requesting for is for the amendment of the law, American law, to ensure that Kenyan victims also become eligible. Because indeed there is established knowledge that the fund is there, and the fund is supposed to perform restitution or reparation for the victims in order that they can be able to attend to their medical needs. And just like you've heard, many lives were shattered. Children did not go to school or further their education, and that is the purpose of restitution, We cannot take back life what it was. You cannot restore back somebody that has gone. But that fund or that compensation will enable people to pick up their lives. And honorable senators, like you'll see from the record, the American citizens and the other victims received to as much as $10 million per person. And you see this kind of fund, even if a percentage of that is accorded to the victims and the families, indeed it will really help to put a closure to this despicable act of terrorism. And I can talk to precedent. I'm sure from your history you see that this is not the first kind of this nature. You see, for example, in the Lockerbie case where the American Pan Am jet was bombed in the 1970s, compensation only came almost after 30 years in, I think, 1999 or early 2000s. So this is indeed possible, and we believe through the cooperation of the Foreign Affairs, through your committee, when you meet with the other senators, your counterparts in the United States, this is indeed possible. So we thank you very much for according us this opportunity, and we remain open to any kind of clarification, feedback, or engagement that you may seek from us. So thank you very much. We appreciate.
Thank you very much for those remarks that you've given us and your contributions. And I want to ask the senators if they have any comments to make so that I can make my conclusion. Senator Tobiko.
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Let me say to the victims, to fellow Kenyans, we have heard you. We've heard you. We empathize with the situation. We sympathize with you. We will continue praying with you. But let me say this, that I believe the hardest part is over. I believe the hardest part is over because, you have come from far. We've heard your testimonies, the bodily injuries, the loss of lives, the trauma, the babies who are born and what they've gone through, the orphans who are left, the widows. We've heard you. Really, because we were also in this country when it happened, and I was just trying to imagine. It's the first time I'm coming in contact with, those who got affected. Yet we were here. We were here in this Nairobi with you. We're just lucky that we didn't go through what you went through. I was trying to equate my situation with the lady at the far end who lost her husband. And I tried to calculate the age of the husband, and that looked like almost the age of my husband, so she could be my age. At that time, I was newly married, and I'm imagining, if I went through what you went through. So I was just trying to put myself in your shoes. It was hard. So we really are sorry, but we want to believe that God with us, it's coming to a better end. Let me say that. It's coming to a better end. Because we are going to appeal to their conscience. We are going to appeal to their humanity. We are going to appeal to their better judgment. We are going, to appeal, also to their laws, so that, because I was imagining what you have gone through and wondering, all these people, the offices you went to, the lady said she requested for an extension of her retirement time just to get medication. And whoever it was who was concerned did not even wait to see her. He just said no. And I was like, have we lost what is human in us? Where did humanity go? The Americans have gone through such experiences, the Twin Tower, bombing, and I am sure they have victims like we do have today here. And I'm sure that they have they have such experiences, and they will listen to us. I want to believe someone somewhere is going to listen to us, so that, as the last speaker said, we bring a closure to this. I really pray. We will also be appealing to God as we appeal to human beings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Kavindu. One of the reasons I've been put in the...
I'm sorry, Senator Manzo, just before you, I'm sorry to cut you short. And let me just say, your resilience is amazing. You know, I was asking myself, really, Caroline, you never gave up? All of you never gave up? Then we have reason to fight in every situation. Thank you.
The main reason the Senate as a House appointed me into this ad hoc committee is one, as a lawyer of many years' experience, and we've handled this sort of field of practice of compensation of injuries caused by another person or another body. Basically, this would have affected anyone, anywhere in the world. And it's an act of terrorism or an act of war against the American government. If the U.S. Embassy was never in Kenya, then none of these people would be going through this. But the fact that the Americans are our friends, and we have very good diplomatic relations with America as a government, we have very good relations as a Senate, with the Senate in America, and also the Parliament of Kenya is very close, it has a lot of ties with the Congress and the Senate in America. We have personal contacts to the Senate and to the Congress through the National Prayer Breakfast, and it's one of the areas we can lobby for whatever laws or whatever is needed. I know the American government is very kind. I know the American Senate and the Congress are very kind, and they are very reasonable people there. But there's one request I want to make to this team, and particularly Kituo cha Sheria. Could we kindly document, for purposes of expediency, every single case, so that we don't close, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 100, 1,000 people are still left out, and the Americans will not go back, so that we don't become disorganized on our part. And I really want to appeal to the nation. Whoever person was affected in this incident, whether they lost their dear ones or they were injured and they are still alive, and even for those who have died, the law allows that compensation, on behalf of their, the ones who have been left behind. If we could document every single case and make a basic case for every single person, then it will be left also to the lawyers to guide as to the determination of the appropriate compensation, because there are compensations to death, there are compensations to pain and suffering. In fact, that's where the biggest damage comes from, because your life is totally inconvenience. The rest of your life is a life of misery, it's a life of education, it's a life of going through hospital every other day and with a lot of expenses. So your living becomes extremely expensive. And because we are not the cause is an attack of Americans. And even the Americans have spent billions of dollars killing terrorism in the world. It's one of their major issues. This is threatening the security and sovereignty of America. And now that as their people, as their friends, as their allies, we have suffered in this war, then there's no way they can abandon us, reasonably so, to suffer on their own. I know quite a number of people here. I've had a long walk with Sindialo, even we went to the Olympics of 2008 with him, and many other people in the cooperative movement. And not only that, there were damages into properties. I know they did something for the bank, they did something for Fundi. There's no way you will rebuild a Fundi. Then you do not bring back the lives of the people who collapsed with the Fundi. Everybody has that picture, even the Americans, how those walls fell. And they fell on people We had people with harrowing experiences, even up to 7 days, fighting for their life, trying to be rescued. Now that this is a problem of the whole world, and Americans are the key target, we really want to plead with their Senate, with their Congress, with their government, because it makes policies, so that they can cover the damage which has been suffered by these families and the people here. It's a harrowing story, and that's why I'm really requesting for a documentation. I want to finish with this. There was somebody in one of the cases, criminal cases, who was jailed irregularly for life. And the lady who had given evidence knew that one of the suspects was not the one who had attacked her and almost killed her. And when the courts went all the way to convict, she went and documented the real story to the world. And when it was read, the government of England decided to set this person free. So once we document, the whole world will know the truth about these incidents. And it goes into how America relates to the rest of the world. Kenya is a key partner when it comes to security of America. And we have a lot of activities with them and a lot of instruments in Kenya, a lot of global positioning, which helps them secure their land. And in that partnership, I don't think they can abandon us at the hour of need when we have suffered because of their an act of war against them on our land. I think it is only reasonable that a compensation has been done. So far, they've done very well. They've set up the fund. The fund exists. The money is there. It comes from the American taxpayers. The only little thing left is the how and to who. And that's why I'm really pleading with you, especially Kituo cha Sheria. We document each and every single matter. And we also see what other foundations or other supporters of the American cause to fight against terrorism, because it can affect anybody anytime, who can come on board and enrich this fund so that who have suffered can be compensated and can be returned to something similar to what their life would have been without this attack to the Americans and to ourselves. I thank you, Chair, and I believe we'll do our level best to conclude this matter within the 3 months we have been given by the Senate.
Thank you, Senators, and thank you, our guests. Now we want to just say we are really, really sorry for what you've gone through. And because many of you have complained that you've turned to the government, you've turned to institutions, and you never got assistance, can I please apologize on behalf of our country, our nation, and say that we are really sorry and we are concerned, and we've taken up your matter and we are going to do whatever is necessary. And I want to promise you something. When our president, William Ruto, was campaigning, he mentioned about you, and I'm sure he has you at his heart. And I know now he already knows that we have this motion at the Senate, and I know he will support and he will do whatever is in his means to make sure that the American government compensates the Kenyans. We are not fighting with America. They are our partners. They are our friends. But we are requesting and we are asking them on humanitarian grounds, it's like they compensated their own, that once we go and we meet with the Senate of America, the Congress, please ensure that the law that is lacking to that fund to include Kenyans so that they can be compensated. I know you will do it because you are human beings. You have feelings like any other person. Today, you can see the way we are talking. The senators here, we have no heart even to talk. I wish the American Senate could be here today to listen to what these people have gone through, so that they feel with them. We've shed tears here as they were, narrating the stories of what they've gone through. And for the last 25 good years, this is the time that Kenya and America should come together and do whatever is possible to compensate these people and to give hope and life to them. Let us come together and give them back hope. Today in the morning, I spoke to Mussolino. I called him at about 6 o'clock in the morning, and we spoke, and he knows that we are here, and he's very happy about what we are, we are doing. I also, a few days ago, I spoke to Joseph, and I spoke to Romana this morning. So they know that we are here today, and they are planning to come and appear before this committee on the 11th of August. And they are traveling to Kenya to come and do this. And then from there, after you've given us all the information that we need, we'll move to America and we'll go and sit down with the Senate of America, and we are going to meet with the Congress, and we are going to discuss these issues with them. And I know we'll bring this matter to a closure, because I know God did not bring it to Caroline's heart, and Caroline started sharing with me this before even I knew that I would come to the Senate or even to Parliament. This was in 2011, 2012. She started telling me about this. I was not anywhere in lawmaking. But today I thank God, because you carried it, and we are here today, and I know this is God's timing. And I know no stone will be left unturned. We'll turn every stone that can be turned to make sure that you are compensated. I know our government is involved. I know our president will do something. Even Raila Amolo Odinga, when he was campaigning also, he mentioned something to do with this bomb blasts, victims. And I know the whole country, the whole nation has you at heart. And this one now coming to Senate has really revived it all, and it is so fresh in our hearts. We are going to move with you. We love you, we care, and God loves you even more. There being no any other business, I just want us to stand for a minute in remembrance of those who died during that period of our bomb blasts, and just in their honor be in silence for 1 minute. Thank God for their souls, because we know they are in heaven with our Father, and their relatives are alive. It is my prayer and my hope that each and every person will be compensated and nobody will be left behind, even those who have no lawyers to represent them, because the Senate is there. And I know you know most of them. We need the lists, because we don't also want, people who are not involved to come on board and say that they were involved. So let us, be very straightforward and bring on board the 213 people who died from Kenya, plus the Americans who died, and the 5,000 people who I was given in the list as in my motion. I hope those people will come forth and we will move together. And it's my prayer and my hope that none of them will be left behind. Because I know Americans are human beings. They have a heart of man and they have heart of God. And I know they will make the law that will